How's everyone doing today? It's your boy JJ Domination, and today we're going to be talking about NFL Week 6. In a nutshell, we're going to be talking about some trades that went down yesterday. As of recording this, it is Wednesday morning for me. Normally I record these on a Tuesday, but I was very busy Tuesday, and I had to change up my schedule a little bit, knowing that I was going to be busy in advance. So I'm recording this on a Wednesday. Luckily I am, because I get to talk about everything that had gone down yesterday, which is huge, because by the time this video would have been up on a Tuesday, all that shit would have already happened, and I would have had to do a different video. I'm sorry, it's early in the morning. It's like 7 a.m. Just smashed the bang right before the video, but let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Enough wasting time. All of the big trades and stuff that happened and all the big news, I'll talk about it when I'm talking about that team. So basically we're going to go in chronological order of when the games happen. So if you want to hear about like the Packers game, it'll be at the end. If you want to hear about the Rams and the Ravens, it's going to be towards the middle, towards the back half maybe. If you want to hear about the Titans and what's going on over there, it's going to be towards the back half, because those were the afternoon games. So let's go ahead and get into it. We got to start off with the game that happened 6 days ago on Thursday Night Football. The New England Patriots beating the New York Giants 35-14. I don't really have any major takeaways other than the New York Giants played the best possible defense they could. Despite their defense not being that good, they played the best possible game they could have for 3 quarters, and they were basically in this game, bizarrely enough. It was like 21-14, I think, entering the 4th quarter, so like they were in this game, believe it or not, and their defense had played well. They had 2 big takeaways on Tom Brady, which you don't really see often from either guy. You don't really see Tom Brady making a couple of bad decisions, and you don't see the Giants really getting takeaways like that. So it was very intriguing, very interesting to see that happen. I think it was just, I don't know. I can't really explain it, man. This year has just been very weird. Let's see, also, if you look at the Giants on offense, I'm not really going to be too harsh on Daniel Jones. He did have 3 interceptions, but what the hell do you expect a rookie quarterback making his 4th start to do when he doesn't have 3 of his 4 best offensive players? He's down to a practice squad running back, and his 2nd best receiver is his kick returner. I mean, what do you really expect from Daniel Jones? And plus, not to mention, rookie quarterbacks that play against Bill Belichick in New England are now 0-12. So yeah, a rookie quarterback can't crack the code in the rookie year. Yeah, that's basically how it goes. So basically, Belichick is 12-0 at home against rookie quarterbacks ever since he's been there in New England, and Daniel Jones is just the next victim. I mean, he was not going to break the trend. It sucks to say that. New England did start to run the football a little bit better in the 4th quarter, ironically, when they needed to run the football. And yeah, that's basically the moral of the story. New England gets another easy win, whereas the Giants, they did suffer a big loss, to New England in terms of the points and stuff, but hey, I mean, they made it out of there. They played good for about 3 quarters. You can hang your hat on that defensively. Offensively, you weren't really working with much outside of Golden Tate. So, yeah, that's basically where we stand. Good job, Giants, for at least fighting for as long as you did. Next up, we have the London game. The Carolina Panthers beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 37-26. I feel like I say this after the Thursday night game where I talk about my predictions. My predictions were absolute shit this week. 6-8 this week. A very bad week for predictions. 6-8, and I could have been 7-7, but somebody decided not to show up on Sunday night, but we'll get into that when that game comes about. But yeah, Jameis Winston, 6 turnovers against Carolina in London. And no, it's not a London thing. We've actually seen this before with Mr. Winston. And I'm going to be honest, man, I'm done. I'm done with Jameis. Last year, I was basically 1 foot out the door with him because I thought, okay, Bruce Arians is coming in. I'll give him a shot with a new coach, a coach that I actually like in Bruce Arians. But, yeah, obviously this thing is not going to get fixed. At this point, he is going to be a bridge quarterback for a good team, or he's going to be a backup. I mean, that's basically what is trending for Jameis Winston. 5 interceptions. I know 2 of them came late in the game where, you know, basically you're just last-ditch effort. I'm going to throw everything up for grabs because we're going to lose. But even the defense is playing prevent, and you basically threw 2 interceptions in prevent coverage. Just a bad game for you in general, but it's not the first time we've seen this. This is a lot of people's problem with Jameis Winston, and it's really one of my big issues because, to be honest with you, okay, why did I like Jameis so much? Well, number one, before size really mattered in the NFL, or before size really started not to matter, he had everything you looked for. He was a bigger quarterback. He had the size. He could make all the throws. He can run a little bit. My only problem with him is his decision-making and the fact that he cracks under pressure. It's like he's a lost deer in headlights when pressure's coming, and he kind of just stares down one read, and then he just makes a terrible decision. You know, like his decision-making, his processor is not great, and you add in the fact that he's not really that good under pressure. You know, but this is a guy who, okay, let's say you just gave all 32 quarterbacks in the NFL a clean pocket. He's one of probably 12 guys that can make all of the throws, in my opinion. So you have that in Jameis Winston, but you also have the shitty decision making and everything else. Now with Carolina, I'm going to be honest, Kyle Allen has not really passed the eye test to me, but he keeps winning, so obviously he's doing something right. Kyle Allen just really doesn't strike me as like a good quarterback moving forward, but if they're having success with him, so what? So be it. I mean, that's their guy then. And he is 5-0 in his career, and he is 4-0 on the season as a starter. And let's see, he is the one of 2 guys to start off 4-0 as an undrafted quarterback, the other being Kurt Warner, so some elite company right there with Kurt Warner. And now, you know, now begs the question, you know, if Cam Newton does come back healthy, because I think he is targeting a Week 8 return. If he comes back healthy, do you stick it out with Kyle Allen, or do you go back to Cam Newton? For me, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, you've been on a 4-game winning streak, and, you know, different variables have gone into those wins. Like in this game, Christian McCaffrey didn't have that many yards. I think he had like 80 combined yards in the game, you know, and only 31 rushing yards. But he had the 2 touchdowns as well. He had a 20-something yard receiving touchdown and a goal line touchdown. So that, to me, that's really what matters. And Curtis Samuel was really the story of this game. When the defense was keying in on Christian McCaffrey, someone else had to make plays, and that somebody else was Curtis Samuel. He had a rushing touchdown on a wide receiver sweep, and then he had a receiving touchdown, I believe, later in the game. Just a good performance from Curtis Samuel. He was on my list of breakout players. I think he was for a lot of people, to be honest. But a former running back converted to wide receiver through college, entering the pros. Just an interesting time over there in Carolina. They win in games without Cam Newton, and it begs the question, what do you do when he comes back? Alright, Redskins Dolphins. Yeah, because everybody watched this game. The Tank Bowl. Miami technically won the Tank Bowl by losing, but let's go ahead and talk about the game a little bit. So, for starters, Terry McLaurin was the really good player in this game. He had 2 touchdowns as the Washington Redskins won 17-16. He had 2 touchdowns, I believe 4 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown. I may be off right there with the statistics, but it's early in the morning for me, okay? My brain really hasn't gotten going yet. And Miami, Josh Rosen was playing horrible, as is predicted. It's not like he has a whole lot to work with over there. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick comes in, and he sparks things up, and boom, all of a sudden, you know, it's 17-16. They go for it on 2, okay? I respect this. You know, Miami's like, you know, what do we have to lose? We're tanking. Either we lose or we get a shock victory with 6 seconds left. They go for 2. It's a screen pass to Kenyon Drake. He's lined up as a receiver, and it's going to be a screen pass. Kenyon Drake drops it. I don't know if he purposely dropped it or what. There are theories going around that Kenyon Drake purposely dropped it because obviously they're tanking. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. But he dropped it nonetheless. Probably would have been a touchdown if he caught it, but we'll never know, which is fine with me. You know, Miami loses. Probably their best chance to win this year unless they face a unless Cincinnati's still garbage by December, which I assume they will be because they've been garbage up to this point. But yeah, that's really my big takeaway. The Redskins, Terry McLaurin balled out, and Miami basically lost themselves the game intentionally, maybe. I don't know. But let's go ahead and get into Saints-Jaguars. Now, we're going to be touching on the Jaguars here shortly about a certain trade, but a lot more is going to be talked about from the Rams' perspective. But let's go ahead and talk about the game first. A very low-scoring game. It was 13-6 New Orleans. The defensive line for New Orleans over the last few weeks, at least over the last month, has really stepped up their game. I mean, they did show out in week 1 against Houston, when their offensive line was still god-awful. And it still is bad, but I will give them credit when their time comes when we talk about the game. But Teddy Bridgewater played well. You didn't really have to do too much in this game. It's a battle of two good defenses. And his defense was better. And Bridgewater was better when he needed to be. So good stuff from him. He did a good job managing the game. And for Gardner Minshew, not the greatest game. I believe he threw just under 50% completion percentage when it came to his passes. Leonard Fournette looked like the best offensive player on the entire field for either team, honestly. And, Minshew just had a rough day. That's really all I can say about Gardner Minshew. I mean, obviously he's been a meme, and we all joke around about how he's the GOAT or a legend or whatever, but, just a rough day at the office. It happens. He's a 6th-round pick at quarterback, playing for Nick Foles, who's making $22 million a year, and, Gardner Minshew's done pretty good up to this point. They didn't win this game. DJ Chark, 4 catches, 43 yards. His go-to guy really didn't have the greatest of days either, facing Marshawn Lattimore a lot. So, it is what it is. The Saints are a better team. I thought Jacksonville would get the upset win at home. Didn't quite happen that way, but good game, Jacksonville. You played hard against a really good football team, one of the best in the NFL. All right, Cincinnati at Baltimore. Baltimore ended up winning 23-17. I know to some it may not be impressive, but to me, getting those division wins mean a lot. Baltimore is now 2-1 in their division, and that's all that matters. There were close games against Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, but they won. They took care of business. And when we get to the Rams, I'll talk more about what I mean with the Jaguars. By the way, I meant to clarify that. So, with Baltimore, Lamar Jackson had a historic game once again. And it has to do with a combination of running and passing. And he's the first quarterback in the regular season to record a game with 200 passing yards and 150 rushing yards. Remember, he was the first quarterback to get, I believe, 250 passing yards and 125 rushing yards in a regular season game. So, and you're probably wondering, okay, well, that just says regular season. Has someone done it in the postseason? Yes, Colin Kaepernick did it against my Green Bay Packers, I believe in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, Colin Kaepernick has done it before, but in the regular season, never been accomplished. So, good shit, Lamar Jackson. He was pretty sharp this game for the most part. I would definitely say that. And this is a team that is built to play a certain way in terms of playing football. So when they have to get out of their comfort zone, it's not the greatest, which you would expect. I mean, this team is built to play with the lead. They're built to establish the run. And the intermediate passing game comes based on the run, because you get to lower those linebackers in the box, and then boom, you get to find your tight ends. So it's basically a simple offense, but if you allow this offense to get going, then you're not doing yourself any favors. Cincinnati, listen, they're a bad football team. Andy Dalton, like I said, I don't really understand why he's still playing. This team isn't going to do anything, unfortunately. And to be honest, they really weren't all that terrible in the passing game. But damn, that time of possession really killed them regardless. But we're going to move on, I guess. Seahawks-Browns. The Seahawks won 32-28. And the Cleveland Browns did make a trade with the Los Angeles Rams. We're going to get to all that with the Rams. The Rams were a busy-ass team, so we're just going to talk about it with the Rams stuff. But the Seahawks ended up winning 32-28. Baker Mayfield had 3 interceptions. Not all of them were on Baker. I'm pretty sure only one was like a legit interception. and the other 2 were kind of like tipped or something crazy happened. But a rough game for Baker for sure. But what's interesting about this game is he did not get sacked, and the pressure really wasn't there in terms of like having dudes in his face and shit. So like it really wasn't like he was being affected by the blitz or anything. He didn't get sacked, you know, and this was the first game I think all year where he didn't get sacked, which is very interesting. You know, the run game was pretty good. I still think they could have ran it a little bit more. Odell had his first 100-yard game at home, which is interesting, so good for Odell. Jarvis was fine as well. Ricky Seals-Jones, a former Arizona Cardinal, really making some plays there at the tight end position. Ever since David Njoku got injured, they've basically been trying to figure out who can be that solidified tight end. They've been using Pharaoh Brown, they've been using Demetrius Harris, but Ricky Seals-Jones to me seems to be the guy, at least for right now, at the tight end position. But Russell Wilson, I think that's the story of the game. Russell Wilson and Chris Carson. Russell Wilson continues to show why he's in the MVP race and why he is absolutely an MVP candidate for the season. Arguably the MVP candidate, number 1, you know, in the MVP race. But then also Chris Carson running his ass off against the Cleveland Browns. Matt Breida basically had his way against him, and Chris Carson just picked up right where he left off, and he had a great game. Did he have a touchdown in this game? I want to say he did. I could be off, though. I think he had 124 rushing yards. Yeah, Chris Carson had a 1-yard touchdown because Tyler Lockett was ruled just short on what would have been a 15-yarder. But Russell Wilson had a great game. After the game, Baker, you know, commented on the officiating. And it's something we're going to talk more towards the end of the podcast with the Packer game. Or not necessarily the podcast, but you know what I mean. Yeah, basically the podcast. But it's something we're going to talk about just a little bit later. Overall, though, good win for the Seahawks. I get where Baker's coming from. The officiating has been god-awful. Like I said, we'll talk about it a little bit later. But I don't really think the officiating is why they lost. But, you know, believe what you want to believe, I suppose. It's fine with me. Eagles-Vikings. Yeah, this is an interesting one right here. The Vikings ended up winning at home 38-20. What's interesting about both of these teams is the Eagles give up the most passing yards in the NFL. So basically you can throw it all over them. You may not be guaranteed a touchdown, but you're guaranteed to throw it all over the lot. And with Philadelphia, they're good at stopping the run. And the thing is, Minnesota wants to run. But in this game, they absolutely wanted to pass. Because when Dalvin Cook really wasn't getting it going in the run because of how great Philadelphia's defensive line was playing, they were like, screw it, man. We're going to throw it all over this bitch against you. And what do you know? They did. Stephon Diggs had 3 touchdowns on 7 receptions. And Adam Thielen got himself a touchdown. Kirk Cousins had himself a hell of a game against a bad secondary. But shit, this is exactly what he needed to have another great game. He did play the Giants, who were a bad secondary as well. But if you want to instill confidence in Kirk Cousins, this is what you need to do. Take advantage of playing inferior secondaries and use your weapons accordingly. Now the Vikings are 4-2, a game back out of first place in the North. The NFC North, that being. So things are looking up for them. You know, their season's not over, whereas where they were 2-2, you were like, okay, this is getting interesting. But they got a road win against the Giants, and they take care of business at home again, remaining undefeated at home, which is a huge deal for them. Whereas for Philadelphia, you know, they were fine. You know, they just really couldn't generate points, and Zach Ertz had like the worst game of his season. Alshon Jeffrey was pretty active in this game. I believe he had 10 receptions, had himself a touchdown as well. So a pretty big game for him. Miles Sanders was more active in this game, which is what I like to see. I think he's a very good rookie running back, so it's good to see him actually getting it going. But overall, in a nutshell, the Vikings taking care of business at home. The Eagles, they got to prepare for a big game Sunday night against their division rival Dallas Cowboys, so they better pack their bags and get going. Texans-Chiefs. The Houston Texans beat the Chiefs 31-24. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it again. On social media, I said that Deshaun Watson is a big game quarterback. And, you know, some people may agree, some disagree, and that's fine with me. I get it, because in one of the biggest games he's had in his career, he did not look great. And that was against the Indianapolis Colts last year in the divisional round, or in the wild card round of the playoffs, excuse me. So he didn't look the greatest there. But what I mean is, in these big games, you know, where he's playing like the better quarterback or whatever, he just seems to elevate his game. Like 2 years ago when he was a rookie, he played Russell Wilson. Now, Russell Wilson's team won 42-38, but Deshaun Watson just absolutely played a great game, and it was like, man, no matter what, you felt like you had a chance with him. And only a few quarterbacks really have that instilled confidence in themselves, and even their fan base has that confidence in them. Not every team is going to have it. You know, it's kind of like a thing with Green Bay fans. Like, with Aaron Rodgers, they feel like they have a chance in every game. With Tom Brady, they feel like they have a chance in every game. You know, like Patriots fans feel that way. You know, Saints fans probably feel like with Drew Brees, they have a big chance, you know, in every game. And it's only like that with certain quarterbacks. You know, like Russell Wilson, you feel like you have a chance with him to win the big games. And it's only like that for a few quarterbacks. I'm not going to say necessarily for all the elite guys, but definitely with like those four. And then Deshaun Watson just seems to be another one. You know, and this is the second week in a row he wasn't sacked, so shout out to the offensive line. However, Titus Howard, who was playing right tackle for this team, he is injured, and it looks like he's going to be out for a little while. So that sucks. Deshaun Watson, though, he did have a bad interception in the third quarter, which kind of sucked. You know, like basically Hopkins did have an opportunity to make a play on the football. He just didn't. But, you know, I'm not going to completely blame DeAndre Hopkins for that, but you could have broke it up or something. Just saying, you know. But Watson in the fourth quarter over the last 2 weeks, 14 of 15 passing, 2 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, and a perfect passer rating. So in the last 2 fourth quarters, granted not against the greatest defenses, but he's been money. You know, he's been taking care of business, doing what he has to do. And Mahomes, this is how you beat Patrick Mahomes. Keep his little ass on the sideline, because Houston had over 39 minutes of possession. The Kansas City Chiefs on offense only had 20 minutes and 12 seconds. And what's even more remarkable about that is Patrick Mahomes only had 7 less passing yards than Deshaun Watson. I mean, so yes, Patrick Mahomes is the better quarterback than Deshaun Watson. You know, I don't think anyone's walking away from this game saying, damn, Watson might be better than Mahomes. But what we are saying is Deshaun Watson really came to play. You know, and he showed up big when he needed to. This team needed a score. In the fourth quarter, he went in and got himself a rushing touchdown. You know, he just took care of business, did what he had to do. Can't really fault the guy for that. Mahomes only 20 minutes to operate with, but, you know, I think he played about as well as you could in 20 minutes. He's still playing on that bum ankle. His offensive line has not been the greatest without Eric Fisher, their left tackle. But my biggest issue is they don't really run the football as well. But granted, this was a game they really couldn't run the football because they only had 20 minutes to operate with. So I think I'm willing to give the Chiefs a pass. I'm willing to give Patrick Mahomes a pass, but, you know, close enough. Here we go. Falcons at Cardinals. This was just a very disappointing game to watch as a Georgia citizen. I'm not a Falcons fan, of course, but it was just a little disappointing because you're just like, damn, you know, shit is really sad over here. But the Cardinals win 34-33. Now, imagine having this stat line right here. 30 of 36. Over 350 passing yards. 4 touchdowns. You think, okay, you're going to win that game 99% of the time. Well, that's what Matt Ryan did, and they lost. Now, there was a missed extra point by Matt Bryant, but it's too easy to blame Matt Bryant for that loss. I don't really think it's on him. If anything, it is on the defense. Dan Quinn, You know, and the reason a lot of people are at Dan Quinn's neck, the reason a lot of people are blaming Dan Quinn, is because he's the guy that's responsible for this defense. He came in as a defensive coach, as a defensive mind, a defensive specialist. And this year, he resumed the play calling for the defense. And the defense has been absolutely terrible. So what's the problem? Oh, Dan Quinn and his defense. That's the problem. And the thing is, this team is way too talented to only have one win on the year, which is just bizarre to me. How do you only have one win on the year with a roster that has Grady Jarrett, Deion Jones, Julio Jones, Matt Ryan as your quarterback, and all these like fast linebackers, and you know, all the receivers, Austin Hooper, who's producing like one of the best tight ends in football? How is this an issue? You know, like, how are you only one win in your season? You know, the defense is absolutely awful this game. They just left people wide open as well, especially in the flat. You know, like David Johnson, I think, caught a pass. He just sat there in the flat for 4 seconds. Like, it was literally sad. He sat there for 4 seconds, and then he catches the pass and gets like 40 yards after the catch. I mean, that was probably the most sad shit I have seen from any defense this year. David Johnson legit sat there for 4 seconds. Kyler Murray played great, as you should against a bad defense, so good for Kyler. And he's actually been pretty good this year. He's 4th in pass attempts, so they're making him throw the football a lot. I mean, he is a quarterback. He does have a baseball background. He should be used to it by now. Let's see, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. My big issue is they don't really score a whole lot on offense. In this game, they sure as hell did. 34 points. Great game from Kyler. I like the fact that they spread the football around. It's not like a one-man show offensively. They just spread it around. There's no true number one receiver, even though they have Larry Fitzgerald and David Johnson and Christian Kirk, who was out this game. Even though they have very talented players, there's no number one receiver on the team. For Atlanta, their offense was pretty good. You know, a little bit of a slow start, but they got going, especially in the second half. Scored a lot of points, but their defense, man, really seems to be an issue. And here they are at 1-5. They're not going to address the coaching situation at least until the bye week, which I think is week 9, if I'm not mistaken. That's at least one report that I read. I don't know how true or how false that is in terms of like addressing the bye week, but something's definitely got to change, and I don't think the Falcons want to settle for mediocre or terrible anymore, so I can't be mad at that. 49ers at Rams. We get to talk about everything that went down with the Rams. I have been waiting for this moment, and it's here. The 49ers absolutely destroyed the Rams. It was 20-7, but it really didn't feel like a 20-7 type of game. So the 49ers just absolutely got pressure all over Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff had under 80 passing yards in the whole game, and he wasn't taken out of the game. He just finished the game with like 80 passing yards, which is ridiculous. They didn't have Todd Gurley. They had a couple of good runs this game, like the first 2 carries that Darrell Henderson had, rookie out of Memphis. He absolutely showed what he can do. I mean, he looked pretty good for like 2 carries, and then he fumbled that halfback toss or whatever. It was a bad toss anyway, but like he fumbled it. Similar to what happened with Oakland, I believe it was, with Josh Jacobs. It happens, you know, that type of weird shit happens. But a bad game for the Rams offensively. They just really couldn't do much. Their wide receivers couldn't create separation. Like Cooper Kupp had 3 catches for like 11 yards maybe, and I think 11's being a little generous. It was a bad week for him. It was a bad week for the Rams offensively for sure. Kyle Shanahan and company just continued to do what they do best. That's run the football, put Jimmy G in situations where he doesn't need to be a hero. He just needs to complete this little 7-yard pass. So good shit from Jimmy Garoppolo, GOAT. Now we can talk about what's going on with the Rams. So the Rams made 3 trades on Tuesday. And we'll start off with the smallest one and work our way up. So they made a trade with the Cleveland Browns. They are trading a 2021 5th round pick to to the Cleveland Browns for guard slash tackle Austin Corbett. And you're probably like, who the hell is Austin Corbett? Well, Austin Corbett was a second round pick last year in the draft where Cleveland got Baker. So in the 2018 class, and let's see. So yeah, he was a second round pick in the draft with Baker. I think Nick Chubb was also selected in the second round. Yeah, Corbett was brought in here to be a tackle, and they ended up playing him at guard for a little bit. Really wasn't the answer. Like, he was fine, but they just assumed that, you know, he's just not ready to play, which is fine. You know, if you think a guy needs more time, then sure, you know, I'm not against it. But this year we really hadn't seen him playing, so we're like, okay, what does Cleveland think of this guy then? And it's really sad because, you know, he's a second round pick and he's already being traded in his second season for a 5th round pick. So kind of unfair. Sucks. But oh well. Let's see. Then the next trade, they traded Marcus Peters. The Rams traded Marcus Peters to the Baltimore Ravens for second-year inside linebacker Kenny Young and a 2020 5th round pick. So let's talk about it from the Rams' perspective, getting Marcus Peters. They have a couple of injuries in the secondary. I think Jimmy Smith is missing time. Tavon Young is missing time. Tony Jefferson is missing time. So, you know, now you add another corner, Marcus Peters, more of a zone press type of corner, more of an opportunistic type of corner. Baltimore's definitely going to give him his opportunities in zone and in man coverage and in press coverage. It's not going to be more towards one or the other, like with Wade Phillips. I feel like he's going to get his opportunities. I don't know like how the safety position's looking outside of Earl Thomas. Do you want to try to play him at safety, you know, just to experiment? Or do you want to play him at boundary corner with Marlon Humphrey, who, by the way, has been an absolute baller this year? We'll just have to see. I think the fit it's a fine fit, but I have to see how he plays. Like, at face value, it's a good fit. And then you look at Kenny Young for the Rams. Kenny Young's a pretty good linebacker. Not really, but, you know, he has the makings to be a good linebacker, let me say that. Really wasn't playing well this year with Baltimore. He's a good blitzer, and he's a good open field tackler. He's good against the run, not so much the pass. And the Rams are going to get themselves a better linebacker other than just Corey Littleton, which is good, you know, which is good. You run a 3-4, you do need another linebacker, and Kenny Young can absolutely fill in that void. So that's fine with me. Giving a shot to a nice young linebacker. He went to UCLA, so he's from Cali. Let's see. And also the Rams had him on his draft board, so they had him on the draft board. They wanted to take him, but he was already off the board. So, you know, that's a good little mesh. You know, he's going to a team that actually wanted him at one point, and it's a position of need. So good job there. This is the big trade. We have the Rams trading 2 first-round picks and a 2020 4th-round pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars for Jalen Ramsey. And you're probably like, okay, well, they just went all in on Jalen Ramsey. What does this mean for the future? Well, before we talk about the future, let's talk about what it means right now. So I believe the Rams are 3-3, if my memory serves correct. They're 3-3. And the Rams really in the secondary haven't been that great. They've been more opportunistic than great. And Jalen Ramsey, one of the best corners in football. They're going to get him. I think he's going to be a good scheme fit. Wade Phillips seems to want to play a lot more man-to-man. And Jalen Ramsey wants to play a lot more man-to-man. You know, because in Jacksonville, they run a lot of cover 3. They're kind of a poor man's Pete Carroll defense. You know, so they run a lot of cover 3. And, you know, that he's basically playing deep a lot, where he could be playing underneath, or he could just be straight up, you know, man-to-man, like straight up on you, like, let's go. Everywhere you go, I'm going. So I think at face value, it's a good fit. Like I said, we'll have to see how he plays in that system with Wade Phillips as his defensive coordinator. But it's good. You know, it's an aggressive move for now. How is it going to be for the future? I don't know. But what I do know is next year, it's a $13 million cap hit for Jalen Ramsey. And next year, Jared Goff, Todd Gurley, Aaron Donald, and Jalen Ramsey, like that salary, I think that's like over 50% of their salary. And invested in 4 guys. And we're not even talking about the medium-sized contracts with like Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods and what's his name, Eric Weddle. We're not even talking about those contracts. So really, you set yourself up to where, okay, you have like 4 large contracts, and you basically need to draft good. But wait, you traded like all your first-round picks over the last 5 seasons. Remember, you traded up to get Jared Goff. You made a trade with the Falcons to move down into the 2nd round. You just traded 2 first-round picks here. I forgot what they did with the other first-round pick. I can't quite remember. Oh, they traded it to New England for Brandon Cooks. So, yeah, like over the next, basically from 2016 to 2021, all of their first-round picks have been traded. So, their original first-round picks, that being. So, interesting time there in LA. This seems like a desperation move. You know, like, yeah, Marcus Peters really wasn't cutting it with the Rams. He really wasn't playing that well. But this just, you know, reeks of desperation. And remember, Baltimore had a trade for Jalen Ramsey. I think it was a first, a second, and Hayden Hurst, the tight end. And they didn't take the trade. I thought that trade was pretty good. But the Jaguars were pretty intimate on wanting 2 first-round picks. They get 2 first-round picks and a 4th-round pick to kind of sweeten the deal a little bit. So, yeah, good trade for Jalen Ramsey. And I just want to point out that the owner of the Jaguars said that he wasn't going to trade him and he was going to make him the highest-paid corner. Listen, I know those are real reports that come out, like he really said that. But you can't take every GM at their word. You can't take every owner or GM at their word, because they're all full of shit. Like, didn't they say the same thing to Odell with the Giants? Dave Gettleman was really like, you know, I'm not interested in trading Odell. And literally 2 months later, Odell traded to the Cleveland Browns. So, listen, you can't take all of these owners and general managers at their word. If they find the right deal, your ass is gone. Period. It doesn't matter how high you are in the pecking order. Like, listen, if they find the right move to get you out of town, you're gone. Period. And for Jalen Ramsey, they found the right deal. And Jalen Ramsey will be able to play Sunday, I'm pretty sure. Unless the Rams are on a bye week. I honestly didn't. No, they play the Falcons. Yeah, Jalen Ramsey ought to be eligible to play. And we'll finally get to see Jalen Ramsey on Julio Jones. The matchup we've all been really wanting to see in a regular season game. We'll finally get to see that if he's able to play. So, Jalen Ramsey gets to come to a better opportunity, you know, with the Rams, because they're actually, you know, trying to win games. Whereas Jacksonville, they were winning games, but recently they've been slumping a little bit. And those draft picks for Jacksonville, I mean, hey, if they completely shit the bed, they have 2 draft picks to fall back on. Maybe the Rams thing backfires. Maybe they miss the playoffs. And now you have 2 picks, you know, inside of the top 20. And all of a sudden, maybe you make a move to get into the top 5. Boom, you get somebody you really like. Maybe it's an offensive lineman. Maybe it's like Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb. Maybe it's something like that. So all of a sudden, things are looking up for Jacksonville if things go the way they want. For the Rams, to me, it's a desperation move. Like, they're 3-3. I get why they're panicking, because Seattle's really good. San Francisco's undefeated. Like, you know, I get it. That's why I'm not too upset with it. You have to be aggressive in this day and age. But we'll see how it pays off. Titans-Broncos, let's go ahead and speed this up. Titans-Broncos, 16-0 shutout for Denver. Marcus Mariota got benched in the 3rd quarter in favor of Ryan Tannehill, and Ryan Tannehill not only got to play in that game, he's playing next week as well. He's been named the starter against the Los Angeles Chargers, who we're going to talk about later, the Chargers. But yeah, Ryan Tannehill is going to be playing in that game. He's going to be the starter. Mariota going to the bench. And like I said with Jameis Winston, I think it's the end for Marcus Mariota. Mariota's big problem is he's not good at the simple stuff. You know, like, yeah, he can make a big play here and there. Sometimes he knows how to use his athleticism, but his big issue is, you know, he really, really can't do the little things. And this offense has a lot of talent. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what Titans fans want you to believe. Corey Davis, A.J. Brown, Delaney Walker, what's his name? Adam Humphries as your slot receiver. Give that shit to an average quarterback and tell me they can't be a good offense. You know, that's really my, you know, big picture, my big point right there, is an average quarterback can take that group of pass catchers with Derrick Henry, with Dion Lewis, and be good. Give that shit to a guy like, I don't know, Kirk Cousins, you know, who's playing well with what he has now, but give that shit to a guy like Kirk Cousins and tell me he can't be good. And let's see, you know, give that stuff to just any average quarterback. Like, you know, if Kyler Murray, who's playing pretty well as a rookie, if Kyler Murray had that, you know, maybe he'd be as good, if not better. Because I like Corey Davis a lot. I like A.J. Brown a lot. But the assumption is these guys are awful because the offense is awful. No, they're very talented. It's just that Mariota doesn't know how to throw a pass. Literally. The guy literally can't throw a ball. And he panics into bad decisions. Like, dude, you're an athletic quarterback. Why are you panicking under pressure when you're fast as all hell and you can escape most of those pressures? Like, what the Mariota is a very confusing guy. Cowboys, Jets. I didn't even talk about the Broncos. I didn't even talk about the Broncos. Let's see. Cortland Sutton had a good game. Phillip Lindsay was fine. He got a touchdown in this game. Flacco wasn't too bad, I guess. Interceptions from both sides. Like, Kevin Byard made a good play. Noah Fant, he didn't turn around for the ball. Kevin Byard tracked it. So yeah, good play. Good play from him. And now let's move on to the Cowboys and the Jets. So how about them Cowboys, huh? 3-0 to start the year, and 3-3 now. And think about the teams they beat up on the first 3 weeks, okay? Miami, who is trying to tank. Actually, no, let's go in order. The Giants with Eli Manning. Pretty garbage. No offense, Eli. It's not your fault. Completely. Well, 80%. Washington, who just fired their head coach, doesn't know what the hell they're doing with Dwayne Haskins. And then Miami, who is supposed to be terrible. They're literally trying to tank. Now let's look at the first 2 teams you lost to. New Orleans. Okay, they're 5-1. Green Bay, they're 5-1. You lost to the winless Jets? Listen, I know the Jets got Sam Darnold back, but is Sam Darnold really that big of a factor? I guess so, because Adam Gase opened up that playbook for him, and boy, they came out here and took care of business. A 92-yard touchdown to Robbie Anderson. Let's see, Dallas. You know, like, they ran the football well. I think Amari Cooper got hurt in that game and ended up missing the game. But that's no fucking excuse. If you're trying to pay Dak Prescott all this money, he needs to be able to elevate the talent around him. Clearly, he is not that type of guy. So stop trying to put him in that class of those types of guys. Stop talking about Dak Prescott like he is that type of guy. He's not. And it's not like he can't be, but in this stage of his career, you got to do everything you can to help him. Because he just isn't that good, you know, without things, you know, going well for him. You know, like, Zeke still ran the ball well. Let's see, Michael Gallup even... Yeah, I think he was probably the only healthy receiver out there. A couple of bad calls, but like I said, man, you can't blame everything on the officials. They're not perfect at their job. We all know they've been terrible. But I've really reached that point. You know, if you would have told me a year ago, like, bad call, yeah, I'd be bitching and complaining. But at the end of the day, that's not why we lost. You know, that's not why Green Bay lost, like, some of those games against, like, Minnesota or tied Minnesota. You know, we didn't have to allow a touchdown or a 2-point conversion. But in this instance, like, you can't blame the officials for not being able to elevate your game and elevate the people around you. You can't blame the officials for bad play calling on 4th and 2 with your starting tackles out. You know, just some things you can't really blame on the officials, and those are two variables right there. The Jets get their first win of the year. On Monday Night Football, they'll be facing the New England Patriots. Good luck. Probably going to get killed, but good luck. Dallas faces Philadelphia on Sunday Night Football. Good luck to Dallas. Speaking of Sunday Night Football, let's talk about this shit show that I didn't even finish watching in its entirety. The Pittsburgh Steelers win 24-17. It was 24-0 entering the fourth quarter. You lost to a duck hunter named Devlin Hodges, San Diego, Los Angeles, whatever. And it was basically home field advantage for Pittsburgh because the Los Angeles Chargers don't have fans. Like, it's not even a secret. They play in a soccer stadium. You know, like, you don't have fans in LA, period. And honestly, that game was very pathetic. You guys did not look into it. I wish people would stop fucking texting me. Anyway, like, I'm trying to record. I hate that shit. Anyway, Melvin Gordon really didn't run the ball that well. Keenan Allen did not have the greatest of games until later in garbage time. Hunter Henry played well. Good to see him back. He looks like a real difference out there in the receiving game and somewhat in the run game, but it's not going to be looked at that way because this team just absolutely lost. They looked uninspired out there, and I think that's the worst feeling to have as a team. Like, you're gift wrapped this opportunity, you know, against a third string quarterback. And yes, the defense did play well in Pittsburgh. We have to give him credit. James Conner did what he was supposed to do, and that's help out his third string quarterback. But well, let's just look at it like this. You're given an opportunity on Sunday Night Football to face an inferior opponent, and now you two have the same record at the end of the night. Like, this is what I'm talking about with the Chargers. Like, they're a very talented football team, but they lose games they have no business losing, and then they win games they have no business winning. Like, if they had to face, I don't know, the New Orleans Saints tomorrow, they'd beat the Saints probably by 10 points because that's just who the Chargers are. But you put them against a third-string duck caller named Devlin Hodges, they're going to shit the bed. I don't know what it is with the Chargers. They just don't make sense. But credit to Devlin Hodges, he played a good game. You know, he played fine. He did exactly what he was supposed to do, and that's just keep everything in front of him and don't try to go outside of your means to play quarterback. So he did good. He did exactly what he needed to do. So all jokes aside about him being a duck hunter and a third string, let's just give the man props. He played a good game. I'm not really going to complain about him too much. James Conner was a stud out there. So yeah, there's the end of the story. Now let's talk about the Packers versus the Lions. Everyone's here to hear my opinion on that. So let's just go ahead and get right to it. Let's get straight to business. Let me just start out by saying that Detroit fans, because I know there are Detroit fans subscribed to my channel, listen, y'all are a legitimate team, okay? I don't care what the public perception is about you guys now, but entering the game and after the game, you guys are 2-2-1. Y'all are a legitimate team, okay? So we can stop with the trolling and the madness. Y'all are legit, okay? I'm not going to sit here and lie about it. You guys are a pretty damn, formidable team. With that being said, I expect better out of the fan base and out of the team itself. You know, why are we crying over officials? Seriously. I mean, come on. Y'all are worse than Saints fans, the past couple of days. Listen, I get it. There were bad calls. There are bad calls every game. Okay? And there was like 2 calls. I think it was like illegal hands to the face or whatever. But if you actually look up the illegal hands to the face rule, that includes the neck area too. And inside the shoulder pads. Now, Trey Flowers did it legit, like, probably once. And it's a call that he's never been called for. He probably legitimately did it once. The second time, or the first time, not really. I don't think that was like a tic-tac penalty. It was something I wouldn't have called. But the second time, it was pretty legit. But let's really talk about the reason Detroit lost. It wasn't because of some stupid penalties, okay? I get it. It was a poorly officiated game, and I think it took away from the great things that both teams were able to do. That's the problem that I have with the poor officiating. It kind of takes away from the big performances that some guys had, like Alan Lazard for the Packers, and basically what the Lions were able to do, creating 3 takeaways, you know? But let's talk about why you lost, okay? You crossed Green Bay's side of the field 6 times. You got 1 touchdown. All right? You had 3 red zone opportunities. You got 1 touchdown. You had to kick 5 field goals. You had 3 takeaways, and you scored 9 points. If you're going to get 3 takeaways and you don't score at least 1 touchdown against Green Bay, you're asking to lose. You're putting yourself in a position to lose. And this isn't me being cocky, like, oh yeah, we're the Packers, we're 5-1, you suck. No, that's not what this is. This is me telling you that against any team, Green Bay, anyone, if you get 3 takeaways and you only kick field goals off of it, that is a recipe to lose. Like, you're asking to lose. Especially against Aaron Rodgers, especially against the great quarterbacks. You're asking to get beat. Like, I don't know what other way to put it. And then, you know, you look at Matthew Stafford. This is my big criticism with Stafford. Yes, he puts up good numbers, but when you really need Matthew Stafford, where is he? Not converting third downs. What were they on third down? Like 3 of something, like 3 of 11 on third down, 3 of 12. Like, that's my big issue with Stafford. You need him to make a play, and he just doesn't make it. And people are going to be like, oh, well, what about his comeback all these years ago against the shit Browns? What about him? What about the shit Browns? What about your comeback against them? Yeah, it was impressive, but dude, you don't have a signature win. It's been my big criticism of Stafford. He puts up great numbers. He passes the eye test. He can make all the throws in a clean pocket. He's got a strong arm. He's got good touch. We saw it all displayed on the very first play of the game, that flea flicker for like 66 yards. Like, the dude passes the eye test. He can make the throws. He gets numbers. But he just doesn't have it. Some guys have it. He does not have it. That's why he's been rumored to be traded for 2 years. He just doesn't have it. He doesn't move the needle, really. As a quarterback, he just doesn't move the needle. He doesn't have a signature win, and this was the vintage Matthew Stafford game. Hey, Matt, we need you. Okay, let me fumble the snap. Let me take a bad sack. Yeah, I mean, seriously, this is Matthew Stafford in a nutshell. And it's really disappointing because he went to UGA. I follow UGA a lot, so it sucks. But what are you going to do? As for Aaron Rodgers, without Devontae Adams, Geronimo Allison got knocked out of the game. Not intentionally by Tracy Walker. It wasn't intentional. Both guys were going for the ball. I really don't agree with the call, but it was helmet to helmet, so you have to call it in that instance. But I don't really agree with it. But it's kind of a whatever call. But Geronimo Allison got knocked out of the game. You're already out without Devontae. Marquez Valdez-Scantling came back into the game basically playing hurt. And let's see. You're basically down to Jake Kumaro, Darius Shepard, who was god-awful, doing his best Ty Montgomery possession or impression. Like, hey, let me fumble this punt return here. Like, hey, let me try to catch this football. Let it hit me in the hands and then in the face. And then let somebody intercept it and make it look like Aaron Rodgers threw a bad pick. Like, literally, there's a picture of Darius Shepard wide open. And the caption is, this was an interception. Like, that's what Aaron Rodgers had to work with. And it's not like with New England, where, like, Brady had to throw to Jacoby Myers and all these other people, because he still had Julian Edelman. Yeah, you can tell me, oh, the receiving corps is depleted, blah, blah, blah. He still had Julian Edelman. Like, I don't want to hear that shit. Who was our Julian Edelman out there Monday night? Apparently, Alan Lazard, who we're going to talk about. Alan Lazard came into this game with 1 career catch. He's been in the NFL for a minute. I think he was on Jacksonville. He was with the Jaguars. I think he was on and off the practice squad, and then literally promoted from the practice squad, I think a few weeks ago, for Green Bay. And he's been active. He's been playing a lot of special teams. Really doesn't get offensive snaps. But Aaron Rodgers had a perfect passer rating throw in to Allen Lazard. 4 targets, 4 catches for 65 yards and a touchdown. You know, like, Allen Lazard came in there. Big moment. You know, you're playing in the fourth quarter. Green Bay needs somebody to step up. You know, Aaron Jones has already fumbled, but he's been fine. You know, and he dropped that touchdown, which really irritated me. But overall, he finished the game kind of okay, but not really a difference maker. Like, Jamal Williams was doing good, but remember, he's coming off a concussion. You don't want to have damaged goods at that point. So you really need someone in the receiving corps to step up. Jimmy Graham really isn't cutting it for me. Mercedes Lewis, I love old man Lewis. He's playing good, but he's not really cutting it for me overall, but he's fine. Allen Lazard comes up. He steps up. Big time performance for him, considering, you know, where he is on the depth chart. He's like the 7th or 8th receiver on Green Bay's depth chart, and he stepped up big time. I mean, that's what you want from your wide receiver, you know, who comes into the game. And Aaron Rodgers really did a good job of getting him the football. It was a good game from Aaron Rodgers. You know, people are going to look at the interception and be like, oh, he threw a pick. Dude, it literally hit Darius Shepard in the fucking hands. Like, what do you want him to do? And Stafford and company, they really couldn't run the football, which was kind of weird because Green Bay's run defense really isn't that good. But it was a good game from Dean Lowry, you know, and the guys, Zadarius, Preston Smith did their thing, you know, getting after the quarterback. I think they each had a sack, which is cool. Kevin King, this was a really bad game for him, but, you know, that's going to happen. Every corner has a bad game. Kevin King, this was really his first bad game of the season. He's actually been pretty good this year. I got to give him a lot of credit. But overall, Green Bay got the win. I know people are going to complain about the officiating, and I get it. The officiating has been god-awful this year. Probably worse than it's ever been because everyone, thanks to the Saints, no offense, Saints fans, but it ain't your, well, it is your fault because y'all just bitched about losing to the Rams. And now we have to review everything, and, I mean, dude, it's going to get to the point where these games are 7 hours long because we have to review every freaking thing that happens. That's where we're going to get to. Oh, we have to review this holding call. Oh, we have to review this illegal formation. Oh, we're going to have to review that face mask. Oh, we're going to have to review that kick out of bounds. Like, dude, we're going to have to review everything because Saints fans had to bitch and complain. It's not like they didn't have 2 chances on defense to avoid the Rams from kicking a field goal. It's not like they started out with the ball at overtime and threw a pick or anything. Like, dude, you didn't lose because of that. It was a terrible call. Everyone in America, everyone in the world, the fucking aliens at Area 51, everyone admits that it's an awful call. But, dude, stop bitching about it. Like, get over it. You know, like, for Lions fans, yes, the illegal hands to the face. One of them was somewhat legit, the other one not really. But that's not why you lost. You lost because you couldn't get in the end zone. And the one touchdown you got, to be honest, it didn't look like a touchdown. But then again, there wasn't enough to overturn it, so I'm fine with the call. But, dude, let's just be real. You didn't lose because of penalties, so stop. The Lions fans have really been coming up with this narrative that, like, in big games, the ref tries to screw them or whatever. No. You just don't bring your A game in these big games. You can't kick 5 field goals against Green Bay. You can't get 9 points off of 3 turnovers, and expect to win. And you can't blow a 13-point lead. You can't blow a 9-point lead in the fourth quarter. Those are the reasons you lost, okay? You can blame the penalties, whatever. You only had 2 more penalty yards than Green Bay. Like, what are you bitching about again? But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed. I had fun doing this video, but hopefully you guys enjoyed, man. Peace out. Sorry, Detroit fans. You guys are a legitimate team, though. Don't cry. You know, just bounce back and beat the shit out of Minnesota next week. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Peace out. Take care. Bye.